Time now for Touch Base in Seoul, and we are very pleased. This week, a special guest, the Irish ambassador to South Korea, Julian Clare, joining us here in the studio. Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I understand that you've not been in the country for a very long time. You were appointed here, I believe, around November of last year. Is that correct?
August, in fact.
August.
But so quite new. So I don't know if I can lay claim to any expertise, but I'm delighted to be here.
What's the experience been like for, I guess, the past 3 months, 4 to 7 months?
It's been great. I have to say, yeah. I had not previously served in Asia, and I'd had an interest in Korea, and I'd read about the economic progress, the extraordinary economic and life narrative of this country, and the miracle in the Han. But I think as a family, until we came here, we didn't really. I mean, it wasn't really possible for us beforehand until we came here to grasp really the scale of Korea's achievements and really the extraordinary capacity for organisation in this country, the dynamism and the energy that you feel every day. And I have to say, I'm delighted that we were also here amongst many highlights, of course, for the Winter Olympics. And I must say the being present for the opening ceremony and seeing the rapturous reception for the team, the Korean team, marching together under the unity flag and the joint hockey team, but also just the organisational success. It's been a whirlwind, really. I can't believe the 8 months have gone by, but it's really been a fantastic experience.
Right before we went on air, you did mention how you don't consider Korea to be a hardship posting, although there is quite a distance between your homeland and Korea. You have actually had a very, I guess you can say, a diverse career where you've been posted in various parts of the world: New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv. They all seem like very different places. This is Asia, so I'm sure there's some inherent differences. But what would be different about being a diplomat in Seoul as opposed to these other places?
I think the comparison is a favourable one, which of course is not an implicit criticism of the other environments.
Sure.
But no, I think there's a tremendous. I think as a diplomat here, you are afforded really a kindness and a courtesy and a receptiveness that I frankly have not found anywhere else. And I think that deep roots in the kind of maybe in the courtesy that's ingrained historically in the Korean character. But I think as a serving diplomat, you are afforded many more opportunities to speak to people, to communicate people, to attend events and functions, to exchange views than you might be in other environments. I have to say it's been a very favourable experience.
Right, and for a lot of our listeners and our residents here in Korea, they might not know a lot about Ireland. I know there's, of course, this diaspora that's all over the world and immense cultural contributions, whether it's through poetry and arts and what have you. But a lot of people would be surprised to know that Irish soldiers fought side by side with South Korean soldiers during the Korean War, shedding loss of life, blood, sweat, and tears. Maybe you can tell us how these Irish sacrifices have been commemorated.
Absolutely. Well, they are commemorated, and it's a wonderful thing. There is an Irish War Memorial in the Korean War Memorial, and I would say, if any of your listeners are ever visiting the War Memorial, I'd say to have a look at the Sunken Garden. It was built in 2013 through great cooperation with the Irish Association of Korea, but of course also with the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, who have down the years been tremendous supporters of the recognition of the contribution that Irish soldiers made to the Korean War. You're absolutely right. We I suppose there wasn't in the past maybe the official recognition because, of course, for the simple fact that Ireland wasn't a member of the United Nations at the time of the Korean War. That came in 1955. But many Irish soldiers of birth and Irish people by heritage, served in the British Army, most notably in the Royal Ulster Rifles. 119 lost their lives, but also with the forces of Australia, New Zealand and Canada. And we're also greatly indebted to our British and our Commonwealth friends for including us in their annual commemorations. But no, you're absolutely right. It's a very, very important part of, if you like, Irish and Korean history. And as I say, in fact, it was when our current Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, our current Taoiseach, when he was visiting Korea in 2013 for St. Patrick's Day, our annual national day, it was he who announced that the memorial would be built, the memorial to all those of Irish birth and heritage who gave their lives in the Korean War. So it is absolutely a very important part of the story of our two countries' relations.
There are some things that I suppose come to mind when you think of Ireland, many iconic images. I guess in recent years, a brilliant actress like Saoirse Ronan or Pierce Brosnan or potatoes or what have you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But St. Patrick's Day arguably would be the most iconic sort of celebration of Irish culture. It is a big deal here in Korea as well. Do you feel that it is, sometimes you feel, okay, this is too commercialized or this is too gaudy, but do you feel that it is a good representative or good ambassador itself, that event, for the rest of the world?
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned Saoirse Ronan and Pierce Brosnan. Actually, the person I'm often asked, particularly when I meet school children at schools events, is Conor McGregor. The UFC fighter.
Yes.
Of course, he's often mentioned. Maybe he is our
He's in a bit of legal trouble.
He is, but I think he may need to use his lawyer's brains perhaps here rather than his brawn. But he's a very he's a very impressive showman.
Yes,
and I think that has won him. I mean, we were in the day of his fight with Mayweather. We were actually queuing up to go up the Namsan Tower as a family, and it was on the TV there. People watching. It's extraordinary. I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but no, St. Patrick's Day for us, it's our national day, but it's more than that, and it's more than if there is such a thing as an ordinary national day. That may be unfair to say that there might be, but it's a moment in Ireland when we connect with our diaspora, and as you know, we have in the United States alone 40 million people who claim Irish birth or heritage, 70 million around the world. Indeed, as an event, it was driven by our diaspora. The first was in New York in 1762. So we are delighted to celebrate it here in Korea. In fact, every year on St. Patrick's Day, the Irish Prime Minister goes to Washington, but the members of the government fan around the world to our countries where we have diaspora, our very important partners. And last year our Finance Minister came. This year Owen Murphy, our Minister for Housing, Planning and Local Government. Seoul City Hall, very kindly green City Hall. There's also the main bridge in Busan. Because we have this greenings of iconic landmarks around the world to show people's connection to Ireland. So, in fact, it is for us. It's while it commemorates, of course, our patron saint who brought Christianity to Ireland. It is a unique moment of reaching out to our diaspora, but also reaching out to anyone who feels any connection to Ireland at all, whether that's by birth or friendship, affection, knowledge, whatever. So it's almost a transcendent moment of Ireland's connection to the wider world, and we enjoy very much marking it here in Korea because we've a very active Irish community here in Korea.
That's a very interesting point you brought up about people who feel that connection or interest or affection towards Ireland and Irish culture, because I'm sure you've heard this trope. It may be a bit of a stereotype, but a lot of people say Koreans are the Irish of Asia, and whether it's this shared history of oppression from various colonial invaders, this shared love of imbibing in certain spirits quite frequently. There are a lot of things that two countries have in common. Ireland also very known for its very vibrant tech startup culture and its vibrant economy. Where do you think the two countries can develop in terms of bilateral relations?
Well, first of all, I just say I totally agree. I mean, I absolutely. Again, it's one of those things that I heard that expression about Koreans, the Irish in Asia, Irish, the Koreans in Europe, and again, you take it in, you think, but when you come here, you see it in a different light, and I absolutely do get it. I mean, I think. We are fundamentally both countries that had to fight for our own freedom in very different circumstances. Yes. And one doesn't want to graft one example onto another. But we are both countries, I suppose, that at the very least had to emerge from the shadow of a very powerful neighbour and had to make our own way in the world and had to, we weren't gifted anything. We had to secure our own prosperity. And I think another thing we have in common is that economically, you mentioned, we're both countries that believe in trade, that you live and die by trade. We're open economies. We're both economies that rely on the global open trading system and on exports. We also, but you're quite right, we also have a love of life. I mean, maybe to use sometimes sometimes it's an overworn cliche about work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
But I think that applies to both countries, that you get the work done, but it's important also to unwind and to enjoy the company of your friends and family, and to enjoy not just to live in the solitary world of appliances and screens, but to get out there and the sociability is the heart of the Irish experience. I mean, people talk about the pub being the centre of Irish life, and it's not just for a drink, but it's for company.
Right.
And I see that. I see that thirst for company in Korea as well, in coffee shops and in restaurants. That at lunchtime, the fact that everyone goes out and has something to eat together. It's so now just on the. You might ask about economic cooperation. We see huge potential for increased economic cooperation. Our annual trade is about 2 billion euros a year at the moment, but it's going up, going in the right direction. We've had a major Korean foreign direct investment in Ireland in the last year with SK Biotech taking over a very significant pharma ingredients manufacturing plant in Dublin. And just to mention, we've had 3 senior Irish government ministers visit Korea in the last 6 months. Our Minister for Agriculture and Food brought 35 Irish companies with him. Our Minister for Education came to the ASEAN Summit and brought education companies and educational institutions with him. And most recently, our Minister for Housing, Planning and Local Government came for St. Patrick's Day. So there's definitely there's a strong relationship, but we see it getting stronger.
From my research, I found that you are a parent of children who are attending Seoul Foreign School. That makes them fellow alumni with myself that I attended many years ago. But so you are settled in quite nicely. What do you foresee for yourself and what you hope to accomplish during the rest of your tenure here in South Korea?
I'd like to, I suppose, I'd like really to continue things on the same path of progress. I mean, I think any ambassador, you want to look to protection and relations and services for your community, but also I do see a moment here in the bilateral relations between our countries, because as I said, there's that attitude, that economic attitude, if you like. That's not just volumes of trade; it's the principle of trade itself, the cultivation of technology, the ambition to be a leader in high tech and in exports, but also educational cooperation. We get we now 600 young Koreans go to Ireland every year on the working holiday program. 3,000 apply.
Wow.
But we also want to reach out to those 3,000 and their friendship with Ireland. So it's. I mean, when I came here, people were talking to me all the time about Begin Again, the television program. We know where the musicians went to Ireland and busked and so on. So what I'm saying is that there's a whole spectrum there on the kind of the economic and commercial relationship, education. Most of our young people here are working in the field of education, which in another country you might say, okay, they were young teachers, but in Korea, when you realise how much education is esteemed in Korea, you realise, well, that's really something that really matters. So yeah, I mean, I'm delighted to have been sent to a country that is dynamic and energetic in itself, but also where I think that things can really go in a stronger and very positive direction.
Well, we definitely hope and share those sentiments, and we really do hope that perhaps time permitting, you can join us once again in the future.
It'll be my great pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.